Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I'm going to do a revision. As you see, it is written here, revision lecture. And this is lecture 10. And this is how it works. We're going to have a revision lecture for assessment 1 and assessment 2. So we're going to revise for assessment 1 and assessment 2. And the reason why we are doing this is because this week we will have our first test on the 27th, and then the second test will be on Tuesday, which is the first, right? So what is going to happen is the first test is based on lecture 1 to lecture 6. That's the first assessment. The first assessment is based on lecture 1 to 6. That's the first assessment. And then the second assessment is based on lecture 1 to lecture 9. And the reason for this is really I don't want you to go and study these things piece by piece, because these things are actually linked. So when you are doing the chain reaction, you need to really understand the entire lecture. So that is, everything is linked, and then you need to understand monetary policy and fiscal policy very well, right? So let us begin by telling you exactly what to expect in the test. So now we are saying that, look, we talked about why macroeconomics, and when we said why macroeconomics, we looked at things like the 5 macroeconomic objectives. We looked at objectives. And then after looking at objectives, we also said the economists need to have some sort of macroeconomic indicators, some form of statistics that they look at. So we also looked at indicators for each objective. And then we also looked at the problems. They are what I called macroeconomic problems. So basically, when you talk about objectives, I'm not going to repeat them, but it's just economic growth, full employment, price stability, balance of payment stability, and equitable distribution of income. And then when you talk about indicators, we say for each objective, there must be an indicator. For economic growth, we said an indicator must be what? An indicator must be real GDP. For full employment, we say the indicator must be unemployment rate. And then for price stability, we said inflation rate or CPI, or even PPI, and so on. So macroeconomic problems, we talked about unemployment, and then we talked about inflation, and then we talked about low growth. And then we said for us to be able to solve the problem of unemployment in the system, what we need to do is we need to come up with expansionary policies. But if we want to solve the problem of inflation in the system, then we must come up with contractionary policies, right? So, but now which policies am I talking about here? And then now we say the government or the Reserve Bank are using policies, and here we are basically talking about fiscal policy, and then we are also talking about monetary policy. Right. So now it is your job now to go and find out what are the instruments for these policies, and then make sure that you understand that very clearly. So we looked at the first topic, which is why macroeconomic, and then the second topic obviously was about macroeconomic performance. Obviously, now here, that is where we learn about how to calculate economic growth, how to calculate inflation rate, how to calculate unemployment rate, how to calculate Gini coefficient, and then how to calculate exchange rate. So now we must just sort of try to sort of understand how each of these objective obviously is being calculated, because when we say the economy is growing, we must be able to say, no, let's say GDP this year minus last year divided by last year, all multiplied by 100. Like just go to the lecture on macroeconomic performance, and then you will see how I calculated each of those. And then the third topic, because this was the second topic. Now, the third topic is about transmission mechanism, or what I commonly call Keynesian transmission mechanism. Keynesian transmission mechanism. So here, basically what we are saying, how does change in money supply transmit into the real economy? And then I have already indicated to you. So I want you to go and revise that lecture on change in money supply will lead to change in interest rate, and then change in interest rate lead to change in investment, and then change in investment will lead to change in total expenditure, and then total expenditure leads to change in output in the economy. Output, we write Y for output. This is Y. I mean, I just did that, and I expect you to go and to revise this transmission mechanism. And then please revise these things and be able to understand them. And up to this point, if you understand everything, the questions for the question for first test will end here. And then now I'm going to add the other topics like crowding out effect, and then where now government expenditure increases. So we want to see how does it crowd out the private investment, which is in investment in the system. And then what I want to see here is I want you to go and learn the diagrams and also learn what is happening in the primary effect and what's happening in the secondary effect. So, and then you must be able to make all the movements in money market, all the movements on the investment curve and then on the 45-degree line. So in that way, we will be able to pass the test very well. And then the last one now we need to do is we need to look at ISLM model. ISLM model. So we started by deriving IS, or let me rather start by deriving LM from the money market. LM, we derive it from the money market diagram, money supply, money demand, all this. And then, secondly, we derive the IS from both investment curve and Keynesian 45-degree diagram. And then from there now, I went back to the fiscal policy and monetary policy to say now, how do they affect the diagram? So then I had IS, LM curve, where this is output and this is the interest rate. And then this is the IS, and then this is the LM. And then this is the equilibrium. So what is happening now is that if this is the equilibrium interest rate and this is the equilibrium output, then what's happening when government increases government spending? Then IS will shift to the right. But now what's happening when central bank increases money supply? LM will shift to the right. Now, what we need to learn here is what is the impact of these changes on interest rate and on output. Yeah, so if you understand this one, I believe it will be more or less sufficient for the first test. You need to read these things and be ready for the test, because it's going to be in the form of online quiz. Therefore, you need to be able to be ready for the test, both first and second. Guys, I'm urging you all to please come and write the test, because you know what exactly what is going to be in the test. Thank you very much.